Welcome.
First slide is just reminding that we sent out the March learning frameworks, and so they were shared on February 12th. We did try to highlight any adjustments that are made in there as directed by or recommended by Math Learning Center. But we also looked at the Minnesota standards, so we might not be following their plan exactly. But we did try to note that in there. And did anybody have any questions or comments about the March learning frameworks?
I have an observation to share with you about first grade, just to give you a heads up on that. We were able to, with some effort, figure out a way to incorporate at least 2 modules of the Unit 5 experience for children so that we could get geometry into the first grade experience this year. But that meant doing a little bit of what my dad would call finagling. So there are a couple of lessons that are combined lessons in the March learning framework, and we are looking to have those be recorded lessons for our DL teachers to give them a little support with that. But we did articulate on the document what steps to do, and then to, if there isn't time, then those might be a couple of days where the children don't get to workplaces. But every other day they have been getting to workplaces, or they should have been getting to workplaces. So I think that should be fine. And the 2 lessons that are combined are ones that have a nice flow between them, and our first grade reviewers felt like it seemed very doable. So Unit 5 is coming in at the end of the year, though, so we are continuing with that plan to go from Unit 4 in first grade to Unit 6 to ensure that children have that robust experience with place value development, which is absolutely critical for them to have so that they're prepared for the rigor in second grade.
So I can talk about this. So the Try 3 pacing guides are out, and please encourage teachers to look at these because geometry and data in particular have towards the end of the year, and definitely before or after MCAs in some grade levels. And so if you can just have teachers be mindful that during number corner, when they're doing data, during calendar collector, and they can point things out during calendar grid with the geometry. So they want to continue to do that and make sure the kids have experience with that before the MCAs, because a lot of the actual units won't be taught probably until April, in mid-April. So, a lot of that might come in after MCAs.
But we do want them to be following the pacing guide.
Definitely. Just use calendar, the calendar collector and the calendar grid to continue to point out those experiences for the kids.
Yeah. And in fourth grade, so they already know or should know that in Unit 4, they're not teaching the Mod 3 and Mod 4, and those are, again, the measurement and data, but Bree was lucky enough that we could take out the computational fluency, kind of play the practice games, and I think we were able to, was that 5th grade or was that 4th grade? 4th grade? And so we were able to bring those in and have those be some part of the number corner. But it's written in the number corner, and it's also written in on some of the re-engagement activities. So some of those looks, some of those peek sneaks at some of those big ideas.
Is there going to be an email specific to those GLTOs explaining more about not stopping and going in and filling in all of those lessons that they will want to do before MCAs, so that it's just coming from someone as well as ourselves?
Do you think it needs to be more than like a note in the March newsletter?
I do. I do
do
not
too.
know that all of my people get through that and comprehend it. Whereas if it's really specific, it's just a little easier to be able to follow that up. That's
I'm
my
getting-
personal thought.
Yep. And Colleen, I'm glad you brought that up because I had that question. I am getting questions, and they're worried naturally because the kids aren't getting what they typically have, and they're still being MCA tested, and they're worried that there are certain areas that they need more emphasis. And so I think they want to take the bull by the horns and take care of what they need to. So if that's, whatever those parameters are and the expectations are for the district, I think that needs to be specific and come out so that we're not in an uncomfortable place in our buildings to what's we should be doing or not.
And I think you probably would naturally, but just to add on to that it would also go to our principals who might be having those conversations with their lead teachers. And, data is important to all of our schools. And people are going to be extra concerned about that this year. Yeah. It's also hard to message against something that might come from an admin. So if they make that choice, but they are aware of what it is being told to us by TALS, then, that it's their building. I'll go, obviously have to go with that.
Yep, we will talk to Anne and bring that to her and see how she wants to message it out. But we will do that. Thank you. Anything else about the pacing guides or the frameworks? Next, we were wondering if it would be helpful to arrange a Number Corner video collaboration outside of the duty day. So we would be looking to be able to give people time to watch other grade level videos, get some ideas on what other people are doing, how can we make it things better, stronger, and faster. So just wondering if people would be up for people who are working on the Number Corner videos. And we thank you for those people who are doing that. It's very much appreciated, and we understand absolutely that not everybody can fit that into their day. So we appreciate all of the work that everybody's doing, and we know that you're very busy. But would that be helpful to have something like that, or do you think it would not? Is it just another thing added onto your schedule that would not be helpful? Any thoughts on that?
I guess how I'm looking at it is I haven't heard anything personally that I need to change. It's not that I don't want growth in it. I definitely, I feel like I can always improve, but it is one additional thing. And with what I'm putting out, if it's okay, I'd rather continue with my system for this at this point. But if you are looking for something more continuity across, a grade or K through 5, and you're looking for certain things, then it would be beneficial. But if it's, I guess, I think I'm starting to beat a horse now. Stop.
I wondered for a clarification for the after hours piece. Aren't our Number Corner video recordings, aren't that they're supposed to happen outside of duty hours for the additional stipend anyway, right? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, if you can fit it into your day, that is wonderful. If you're not able to do that, then you're putting down the hours that you are using outside of the duty day. And this would be paid, not from the hours that your stipend comes from. So it would be like an additional hour.
Okay.
Or hour and a half a day.
Thank you.
Would they be extending the hours outside the duty day since they're adding the trimester? It was like 28 hours or something.
Yeah, so you'll be we're working on developing that new ESA. So that will be for trimester 3. And we'll be working on collecting those hours and sending those out to you. Okay, do you want to
Would
just,
I'm gonna throw something in. I'm not completely sure, but it seems like maybe we've had a change in who will be doing everything, or if we're gonna have to shift people around and that kind of thing. So is it going to be better for us to try to attend this kind of all together to figure out who's going where and what's needed, and so that there's consistency with the changes, or would it be better to meet with teams? I don't know how consistent we are across the grade levels. I haven't looked at that.
well, right now we just have one new person coming in, so we're working on that still. It's still a process. But if there's anybody else that would like to take on more, please let us know. We are short a person, fourth grade and fifth grade. So, and I haven't. We'll in the process of seeing if there's other people that are able to join those teams, and otherwise checking in with those people to see if they're going to be able to keep their nose above the water. So we need everybody's nose above the water for sure. We'd like you to be happily floating and swimming and enjoying it, but we know that we're sorry, but this has been a stressful process. So when we have everybody confirmed, then we probably can answer that question.
Sounds good.
So I'm not sure, do we have an answer? Are we waiting? Can people respond by like the end of the day on Friday to that question about, do we want to have that after hours? I'm not clear on what we're hearing.
Is this a one-time deal or over a period of time? Okay.
It would just be a one-shot deal, and we were just thinking that there's some grade levels that are doing, have a system in place that might be beneficial for everybody, but I understand that it's hard to change your system as well, but just wondering if people.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I think Colleen mentioned, and you've talked about since I put my 2 cents in, it would make sense when there's that shifting and discussing and figuring out roles. It may be helpful, but I guess I am willing to do that, but I think it's more on your end on whether it needs to be done, because you know which spots need to be filled and what needs to be figured out, right? Or no?
Right. It's not just for the new people. It's for everybody in place. Would it be helpful for you to kind of actually have a chance to see what other people are doing and see if you can, if you want to change what you're doing, if there's ideas to make it be faster, where it's not taking you as many hours as what it's taking. I know people are putting a lot of hours in. So if there's a way to streamline that, it would be nice to be able to do that for this last trimester. That really is the intention of sharing what works and sharing if there's ways to make it better.
And you can tie it into best practice for teachers to be able to see and collaborate how other people are interpreting a lesson, or just management and all that opportunity to be able to see what other people are doing. And we know that with the extra demands that have been put on you this year, your job is already very demanding. But with the extra demands, I know that people haven't had a chance to see what's happening in other grade levels. So this just could be that opportunity to be intentional about that, and then to just see and give ideas that have worked for you to other people that may be kind of struggling with one idea or another. So, it's just trying to bring in some of that highly effective practice that we know works in the classroom into this setting too.
We will send a message out that people can respond to and let us know what you think about that. So maybe today. No, don't want to.
Or tomorrow at the latest. 'Cause
All right.
today's sheet is already filled up.
Oofda. All right. Grading. Trimester 2 grading changes were sent out. There was an update to that grade 4 with just adding that benchmark that was missing. And we wanted to remind people to also encourage teachers to be looking at the yearly RCIs and the trimester RCIs. So the trimester RCIs also give places where teachers can be looking for more of that formative data, anecdotal data, so they can be pulling that evidence for learning from other places besides just summative assessments.
Oh, March 29th. This is just to remind us all that there is going to be an opportunity on that day for our teachers of mathematics to engage in a prequel for the April 5th training. So this has come at the request of Math Learning Center. There is some readings and discussion and reflection that MLC feels would be very valuable for teachers to have before they engage in the April 5th experience. So we worked with the director who worked with other groups to and communicated with principals that this would be an expectation on that day. And we will be making, not today or tomorrow, a short video that will be shared with you first and then the grade level teacher leaders on how that PD, that independent study and discussion would flow. The GLTLs would be the facilitators or the guides for this, but there shouldn't be an intensive expectation on their part. It's all pretty self-explanatory, but you know, it's really important to have somebody who takes the lead for this, and you can't take the lead for 6th grade levels simultaneously. So we want you to get the information first, make sure that our communication is clear, and then we'll pass it on to the grade level teacher leaders so that they have it in time for March 29th and they can look it over a little bit ahead of time so that they don't feel surprised by anything that might be in there.
Do you know on that day how many minutes will go to ELA in our, not dyad grade levels? Or if there's an expectation on the GLTOs or the LS to be presenting anything at that day? Just trying to figure out that
I don't
balance.
know. I don't know what's happening with the ELA dyads.
For the math side, it will take the whole half day.
No, I didn't mean the dyads. I mean for our self-contained classrooms. I'm assuming that part of that time on the 29th will have to be ELA, or is it all math?
Our understanding is that that half day will be dedicated to math.
Awesome.
But it could be during the staff development half day, and it could be during the PLC collaboration half day. So that's going to be site dependent. The principals are navigating that, but they know what the expectation is and they're making that space to have it happen.
Got it. Thank you.
So our topic for April 5th is going to be interventions. This was a topic that was going to be, I think it was September 1st. And then we engaged in one of those many pivots that we've got to experience this year to make it more meaningful for where we were at that point in time. So we're going to be giving teachers that opportunity to dig into the intervention materials. And we just heard yesterday what materials teachers need and got approval for the description. So all of that will be available in the catalog for teachers and in LMS so that they can see what they need. In an ideal world, everybody would bring 1 or 2 of their intervention volumes, but we know that we don't have hard copies of all of that. So Math Learning Center is fine for teachers to use the electronic version of that. So it's going to be really important, once again, for teachers to have a device. So everybody will be one-to-one. We're working on, we're actually finalizing the organization of that opportunity and how we're, who is going to be working with whom when, and then we'll also plug the math specialists in to support, to be that support person as you have in the past, recording and collecting questions, answering questions if they are ones that you feel comfortable answering, and so on. And then you can see that for the dyad teachers, for their additional math experience, they'll be digging into Google Slides and Pear Deck, and that will be facilitated by an ITT in conjunction with a math specialist. And so we've solicited the math specialists that have been doing some additional work with Pear Deck in particular, and I believe those people are Sean and Colleen and Lori Harris. They've already been contacted, and the rest of us will be supporting the Math Learning Center sessions. Everything will be recorded. So if you want to watch the dyad session, you'll have access to that at a later time. And if you have additional roles, and those additional roles are going to cause you to do, spend at least half of your, or not at least, but half of your day in a different kind of a session, please just communicate with communicate to us about that so that we can use that information when we're assigning people and we don't leave any session in the lurch. We should be just fine with the number of people that we have and the number of sessions that we're having. We don't want to put somebody into a session alone and then find out that they need to go to something else that day.
I know in the past that maybe it was the last training that we asked teachers not to be in the same classroom because of not interacting on their own device and all of those. What is the situation going into this one? Are they supposed to be in their own rooms on their own device or together?
Yes, we're Math Learning Center indicated that it went much better with teachers on their own device in their own space. So that will be the message again.
We need to keep in mind too, and maybe we need to flesh out some messaging around this, but with student teachers in the primary grades in particular, we're really full in those sessions. And we know that we have to pay for anything above 30 participants in a session. And some of our sessions are at 28. So if there are student teachers and K2 in particular that are going to be participating, it would be great if they could be with their cooperating teacher in that classroom so that we don't have additional accounts being used that will be charged for. And that just makes sense anyway. It probably should be a K5 deal because that student teacher is learning from that cooperating teacher, and there might be side conversations that they would be having, questions that the student teacher might have, or elaborations that the classroom teacher might need to share with the student teacher during that experience.
What are the, after the, and this is, I know you probably won't have an answer, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. As far as the expectations after intervention training, what are your hopes or what are your expectations? Maybe not requirements, but what are your thoughts in regard to once this has rolled out for the classroom teachers?
I think that would be good for us to work on some common messaging around that. So rather than just saying what's off the top of our head, right now. Maybe we should work together as a TALS team, perhaps with the directors, so that we can be really clear about that to everybody, and then we can share that with you, and that can be shared on that day too, because that's a really good question. A lot of people will be wondering that, and it's one thing for us to share our hopes and dreams, but what would be the district messaging? I think we should be more careful about.
But we do want to be able to support those teachers who are ready to get started if they haven't done so yet. So we do want to make sure that the materials are available to them. And we know that not everybody, is that the next slide? Yes, That's so exciting. I didn't know that for sure. It would be, yes, really helpful if they had all of their materials. And we know that not everybody was able to get them into all of those classrooms. So if we could kind of, find those intervention materials and make sure that they're in the hands of the classroom teachers. So we did just put in a reminder of what each classroom at each grade level should have received. And there's a components list up here. Should I click on it?
Sure. Do it.
Did anybody fix the link yesterday?
I made it available to anybody in Anoka Hennepin with the link can view.
Okay. I can view that, but I could yesterday as well. So thank you, Margaret, for fixing that, and hopefully that is what.
Let us know if it's not working.
Yeah, I was able to see it, so it worked.
Awesome. So that's just the list of what is in each of the components. And if you need to check with your curriculum secretary on, things that your building received, you certainly can do that.
Will they inventory these materials like they would their regular classroom materials as far as the end of the year goes?
It's 9 o'clock.
Drink your water, Len.
I don't have any yet. I don't even have any. These materials would become part of their classroom set. So yes, it should be inventoried at the end of the year as well. Melissa, did you want to talk about student kits?
Sure. So there continue to be some questions about the student kits, and we've kind of decided to take a wait and see. At this point, the materials should be kept as individual sets, but you don't have to keep them in the boxes. They can put them in baggies or whatever they need to. The teachers are going to be supplement from teachers will set to support some of the missing pieces. So if there are missing pieces, the teachers can fill that in. And at the end of the year, we plan to have the teachers assimilate those kits into their classroom supplies. But again, it's kind of a wait and see because we just don't know what's going to happen. So we will be getting more messaging out to you as the end of the year comes. If they do need a total kit replacement, those can be purchased from the warehouse. And at this point, I know there has been some questions about charging families if the kits aren't returned, and we're not doing that right now. Again, we're just going to wait, see how the year progresses, and then at the end of the year, we'll have some messaging about what the teachers can do with the kits and if there will be any charges.
Yeah, if we don't have to go into hybrid or distance learning again this year, it becomes a moot point. It's just we have the materials at school, and teachers can supplement missing pieces from their classroom supplies, knowing that those would be replaced and even expanded upon at the end of the year. That's the expectation. So we're hoping that we don't go back into any kind of a distance learning format.
So just to clarify, because I was a little fuzzy when Melissa and I had a question, but then I think Margaret cleared it up. Supplement from teachers set to support some missing pieces. So you take regular curriculum manipulatives and fill in the missing pieces within the kit. If for some reason those curriculum pieces go missing, who's going to replace them?
Well, we're hoping at the end of the year, and it should be the case, that as these kits get assimilated back into the classroom, there shouldn't be missing pieces, because there's going to be quite a few extra pieces that will be assimilated back in. But
Gotcha.
as I said, it's kind of a wait and see. We're gonna wait until we get closer to the end of the year and see, you know, what the materials look like and how many extra materials we have.
Yeah.
Forward.
So case in point, Elijah, second grade, Oxbow. Mother's a teacher. They had a special place for their math manipulative kit. And somehow when it came time to bring that kit back to school, he was missing his 1-inch tiles and his spinners. So fortunately, he had a connection that was able to replenish his kit from things that his Nana just happened to keep at home. And he was able to bring everything back. The teacher could, you know, in that case, just throw in some 1-inch tiles, and instead of replacing a spinner, just give the kid a paper clip and a pencil. You know, they can use their own pencil. There's no need to get the fancy schmancy spinner back. But the plan has been, you know, and we hope that that will continue to be the case, that at the end of the year, then the teacher would be able to collect all those things. So just think of how rich in manipulatives the teacher will feel when he or she would get, you know, however many spinners are still intact, and additional Unifix cubes and measuring tape and that sort of thing. But some of those materials in those kits too is basically just cardstock. So those would probably not be things like the 1-inch tiles and the, you know, I don't know, maybe those base 10 area pieces the teacher would want to keep because they're so little, and be nice to have those to augment their classroom supply. But we're expecting the teachers will be just fine. Okay, well, I'm ready for this slide. All right, so it's time to have some conversations around the COM and the tasks that are going to be administered for Try 2. So the Try 2 outcomes that would be addressed in the KCOM would be 1 more to 20, ordering to 10, 1 less to 10, and then compose and decompose finger patterns to 10. And Sean and I have talked at length about this, and then we had a big conversation about it yesterday. There was some work done last night to make sure that, you know, we're as ready to go with this as we can be. And I just have to admit that it's not going to be perfect. And there are things that we're going to need to really look carefully at for next year and get teacher feedback on. But this is a year of making things work. This is the year of MacGyvering. And that is going to be the case with a KCOM. Lynn, could you click on the link, please? So this link will be shared with the GLTLs and you in a communication that goes out this morning after we're done with our meeting. If you could go to the next slide, please. There is just messaging that the light blue slides reflect previous trimester goals. So the light blue slides would be the teacher's option, whether or not to ask questions that are on those slides. When we get to the white slides, those are the ones that reflect the Try 2 pieces. So what is 1 more than 12? What is 1 more than 17? Okay, so these can be used by the DL teachers, but it's possible that in-person teachers would like to use the slides as well. They're not going to be interactive with students, and we did try out a recording that students could record themselves or submit, but then there was concern about, is that really independent? So I think we've come to the conclusion that these really need to be given one-on-one with students. Could we take a look at the ordering, please? Those are the numerals that have the pictures underneath them. So for kindergarten, there are different options, and these options will be shared with teachers as well. But if teachers are using the slideshow, how do you get the child to tell you what order these are in? So one of the things that we heard from teachers is that having students drag and move the numerals themselves is quite challenging. So for this particular task, the child can tell you, if they don't, they can tell you what shape or color is below the number that they want going next. So, maybe they'll say the 2's above the red arrow, or the 2's above the red, the 2 goes first, and then the teacher can type that in or write it and then the child can just keep describing what comes next, what comes next, what comes next. But another option could be that the child records the numerals in order on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper, and that's fine too. And if you're in person, this might be a time to have the cards out, numeral cards out that reflect that order and that content, and then the child can direct the teacher to put the cards in order so that the child doesn't need to touch the cards. But the child can direct the teacher for putting them in order. Does that all make sense? Any questions about that? Okay, so there are options. This is just one option, and then for finger patterns, or going into compose and decompose, there were lots of conversations around this, and this is where we landed. So there were some different messaging in different places about what that try one expectation was. And so after lengthy conversations and a lot of thought, we decided to give children as much grace as possible with this too. And then look at that idea that by the end of try one, it makes sense for the children to have access to the finger patterns. So if you're a DL teacher, the child has the 3, what goes with 3 to make 5, rather than just a bare number task without the child seeing the 3 fingers. If you were in person, the teacher could show the fingers, or the teacher could show the picture that's on the slide. These finger patterns are taken from the number corner board. So they're the same images that the children should have been seeing on a regular basis in the classroom. So there was a lot of conversation around that. That's where we landed. And then for try 2, being able to generate without counting by ones, quantities 6 to 10. So those are the white slides. And the teacher simply asks, show me 7 with your fingers.
And Margaret, Nicole Dillner had a question about the ordering slide here.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how to put these numbers in order. Should this 2 be a 5?
I was wondering that just now too. Nicole, does it say that elsewhere? I feel like this was taken right off of the com. So I'm wondering if that was.
I think it's maybe just a mistake. I think it's supposed to be a 5.
Okay, then we'll fix that before it gets sent out.
Isn't the second sequence 6 through 10? Like the first sequence is 1 through 5, and then it's 6 through 10, and then it's the jumbled up 12, 13, 15, 18, 20.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that and make sure that it's right before it gets sent out to teachers. Thank you for that. I'm gonna write it down on a Post-it.
I have a quick question on this. So I know it's going to go out to GLTOs, and this year we're not turning in data to the district, so we're using it really just in our own buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So could our grade levels choose to just continue with the way we presented from the beginning of the year,
Mm-hmm.
so that we have consistency rather than
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so they can choose on that part. Thank you.
Yep. We just want to make we wanted to clarify what the try to goals were, and then there have been requests for slideshows, especially for the DL teachers. So those were put together last week, and then of course, you can see how important it is to have things vetted by a group like you, who notice things and have that lens from the classroom, and that real experience with students and what's going to work and maybe not work. There was a question that came up yesterday about where the Try One data was, and that it was grayed out for Compose and Decompose for Try One. And some people were saying because actually the Compose and Decompose was collected from checkpoints from different units in Try One. And so some people were thinking it might be easier to just go ahead and make sure that the kids are secure with those parts to 5 with materials rather than looking in the MAG and trying to assimilate all that information. It might be just as quick to go ahead and give the blue slides if you were choosing to use this model rather than having to go back and forth and this child gets it, this child doesn't, it doesn't, and so on. So that's a teacher choice. And then if you could go to the next slide. There are just a couple of things here too, and this also will be communicated with the grade 1 GLTLs, and you'll be a part of that messaging as well. But these are the Try 2 outcomes. And there was some discussion about the backward number word sequence. On the report card expectation for Try 2, it's backward sequences to 100, but on the COM, the child is counting back from 103 to see how they handle that centuple. And can they go 103, 102, 101, 199? But we're only going to hold the children accountable for, I mean, we have to hold the child accountable for that 100 down, even though we're going a little bit above that, right? So I think we just really need to adhere to that so that we're following that expectation that's been communicated to teachers and families. And then if you're using the COM-R for Try 2, I do believe that part of the skip counting task includes skip counting by 5s, but that's a Try 3 expectation. They just need to skip count by 2s to 20 and 10s to 100 by the end of Try 2. That will be messaged to the GLTLs this morning.
So just to clarify for me, is this more so like when they're doing their report cards? Because obviously we'll have had conferences already by the time that we're doing this assessment.
Right.
So is it just for the teachers if they want to go in and look specifically at that counting sequence from, I know, 103 back when they're grading, or?
Right, for when they're grading. It's for grading purposes.
So again, kind of their choice if they want to make that adjustment. Because I know in past years we've always done
of the task, yeah.
Okay.
And I think the communication articulates that, that it's for grading purposes and what they're holding the child accountable for in being able to say that they've met that trimester goal.
Well, probably and for instructional purposes as well. You want to know where your students are at.
Well, yeah. But we just don't want, you know, if you're giving the COM and the child misses 101, we don't want people feeling like, oh my goodness, they're not where they need to be. So, okay. I think I'm done.
So we included this slide, even though it's after the fact, just as a reminder that MLC continues to put out different information to webinars, different links and things that teachers can use. So this was put out, I guess I just found it on Thursday of last week. So right before Valentine's Day parties, but obviously you guys didn't get it until Friday. This was, the link on here is just some fun activities that kids can use the Shapes app with. And so they could still be used. So make sure to share with teachers that this is there. They can use it throughout the remainder of the year, but then also just share with teachers that if they go to that site once in a while and just go to the home page, there's always some different things, new things that MLC has put out. And if they're aware of that, they can use some of these for, you know, fun activities or additional activities that they're doing. I'm just curious, did anybody see this and or hear that teachers shared this with kids for Valentine's Day?
No, I just looked into what you shared and I liked it.
I know. And I saw it on Thursday, and it was really too late to be sending it out. So it was just a good reminder for me, and that's why we put this slide in, just as a reminder for you as well, that, you know, once a week or two times a week, go to that home page and just see what MLC has put out, because they continue to put out wonderful things for teachers to use. And another thing that MLC is doing now is providing the T's for K through 2 and Seesaw. And we as a district have been doing that. And thanks to Melissa Carlson and Ben from Johnsville, they have been doing that for us throughout this year, converting the T's into Seesaw. But now MLC is doing that. I'm not sure if we're going to just continue to do it as we've already started, and there's, you know, a certain precedent that's been set now and the kids are used to it. But I did want to point this out, because notice that there's 2 links here. There's a link to a blog and a video on how to use Seesaw with the T's. And then there's also that February 23rd, a little interactive webinar that teachers could go to. And that might be especially helpful for your intermediate teachers that might not be using Seesaw, because Seesaw has been purchased by the district for 3 years. So, you know, it's kind of an expensive thing, and teachers can use that in the coming years also. So this might just be a great opportunity for them to just get a little heads up and maybe start using those.
And Melissa and Melissa have been putting the T's in for grades 3 through 5. So it's available for them as well. And, you know, I'm sure the webinar, it would still apply to the 3 through 5 Seesaws T's as well.
Yes. And then finally, this is just a reminder that the tech enhanced activities, whether they're used through Seesaw or the ones that the MLC is putting out, they are not to replace lessons. And so teachers shouldn't just be sending out a tech enhanced activity and call that the day's lesson, because they work together with the Bridges lessons. And so there is teaching that needs to be done along with these. Many times the T's will cover, I think it's grade 2, that the T's have covered multiple modules and multiple sessions. So it might say module 2, session 3 and 4, and then module 3, session 1. So the T's cover all of those. So, you know, sending out the tech enhanced activity and calling it a lesson, then when you get to the next lesson that T covers, you know, what do you do? So teachers need to make sure to be looking at these T's and using them purposefully to match all of the lessons that they might cover, and not just using them as a lesson as itself.
And a lot of times, you know, they really do give opportunities for teachers to actually be able to see the work and the thinking and the strategies of their students. And our distance learning teachers really should be using the T's and even using the ideas that are in the T's, so they can make additional things, supports where they're being able to get that information from the students. And that's where that 3-5 dyad training with Pear Deck will help support. How can you, especially as a distance learning teacher, have that same opportunity of really being able to see students thinking and be able to give specific feedback to those kids. So again, great ways to be able to do that. And it sounds like some are using them, some are not using them. So if we can support those teachers into making that a part of their practice, that would be great.
And then just an additional little note on that, whether they're using the Seesaw or the regular T, there is lots of times teacher notes on those. So if they're using the regular T, it's a box that it's right in the center of a slide, and it'll say teachers read this and then delete it and to do something with it. And then if they're using the Seesaw version, it's going to be in the teacher notes. So just maybe remind them to check those notes and make sure to go through all the slides, because you don't want to send it out to the kids with teacher notes in the middle of the slide that needed to be deleted.
A big shock that I have another question. But it's probably something I should have known a long time ago. Just dawned on me now. Have we done anything, or is there any extra support out there for our teachers who are just DL? Just thinking like my GLTLs are not DL teachers, so what they're doing for instruction is very different from the DL teachers. And I know it was an EL teacher yesterday that I spoke to, but she's like, yeah, this is very difficult. Not something she'd sign up for again. And so I'm just thinking, what do we have for support? Do they have a way of interacting across grade level or across buildings? I mean, do they know who else is doing DL with them?
Well, and I'm not sure if they're doing anything across districts, but we did just start talking about if there were some opportunities that we could be supporting, and maybe office hours for DL teachers, with supports on how to use Google Slides, how to use Seesaw, how to use Pear Deck to be able to do that interaction. And we feel like K2 probably has a fairly good handle on that, especially with a lot of them are using Seesaw, but maybe it's the 3-5 that aren't as consistent and don't feel supported. And we do want the ITTs to be able to support them, but we were just starting to roll around some conversations about how we can be more intentional, and perhaps even on those Mondays being able to send out some time that might help with their professional development. We had talked before about collaboration. Melissa or Margaret, do you know? I believe that the principals have set up collaboration between the distance learning teachers.
That's what we were told, yes, that the principals were given a list of all the DL teachers, and they were supposed to, set up different collaboration groups or at least pass along the information so the teachers can reach out to other DL teachers.
And my understanding, because Elizabeth had been a DL teacher for some time and has stayed connected with many of them, that I think that most of our distance learning teachers are connected with other DL teachers from other buildings at their grade level. But this was something that we were told was going to be a principal ownership deal, and that it was on their plate. And we know that they've been extremely busy. That's been, a very challenging job for them this year to navigate everything. So if there are people that still have not had that opportunity to connect with colleagues at their grade level, that might be helpful for us to know too, so that we can maybe just put a little whisper in some ears that this is still a need that needs to be addressed. But I know that there's a strong collaboration with the teachers, and I think in the Blaine area, as well as the southern area. People seem to have connections with one another. So if there are pockets where people are feeling isolated, we should know that so that they don't have to continue to feel that way.
And this slide is just here for your reference, and just because we have it all in one place. So the Number Corner March preview videos are out, and those are helpful for our classroom teachers that are teaching. They just give some hints on what to focus on and other things that they need to do with the March Number Corner videos. So just remind the teachers that those are there for their use.
So I would like to promote the MCTM virtual conference. It is coming up the middle of April 16 and 17. I think there's a link right there to the site that can help you register. It costs $75, and it is going to be much more accessible for elementary teachers this year because it takes place on a Friday evening, late afternoon to evening, and then all day on that Saturday. We have Tracy Zager becoming the math teacher I wish I had as a keynote speaker, as well as Trina Wilkerson, who is going to be the Saturday keynote. Trina is the current president of the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. We have, actually both Trina and Tracy are going to be talking about how do we move forward what are some lessons that we've learned from all of this that can make us even better in meeting the needs of our students in the area of mathematics and really helping them become the mathematicians that they are ready and willing and that we need them to be. And we have a Jeff Kroll who wrote Necessary Conditions. Dr. Christopher Childs is going to be speaking about social justice and in the math classroom. All of these videos are either live or pre-recorded. Oh, and then we have, not all these videos, all these sessions are going to be live or pre-recorded. And we have more sessions for elementary than we've ever had before. So we're very excited about that. And every session will be recorded and available for 11 months after the conference, except for Dr. Childs, who just wants his available for 30 days. So, which is fine. We're just so happy to have him. But Christopher Danielson is presenting. Jim Brickwoody is doing a couple of sessions. Let's see, Terry Weiberg is doing a couple of sessions. And their topics are just fascinating. People are really excited to share some things that they're finding that we can take from this whole experience and be even better at what we do. So I strongly urge you to look at attending, and I believe that there can be some financial support if your school isn't able to pay for your conference fee and it's something that you would like some support with. There are links on the MCTM website for applying for some financial support to attend this virtually. And then there's a link for the NCTM coloring contest, and that is supported by Origo. And so children and their teacher can win some prizes from that. And then just a reminder about the existence of SciMath Minnesota. We've used that website many times in years past, but we have a lot of new staff now that maybe haven't heard of that. And SciMath has such great supports in interpreting the benchmarks and what that might look like in the math classroom. And then just a heads up too, that the Minnesota standards for math are up for review next year, and that they will soon be soliciting applications for people that would be interested in helping shape that, what the standards might look like for our students in the future. And as soon as we have information about that application process, we will share that with you. Toot sweet.
Margaret, it made me think of MCs. There are no updates with anything in regard to math MCA. Is there? Everything's the same? No new information?
For our next flipped meeting, RET is going to be talking about MCA. So if there was anything, they will include it in our next meeting.
Okay.
And we're very grateful to Ian for sharing the 21-week equity challenge. We signed up for it, and you might like to do that too. It's free of charge, and then every week they send you resources, some short readings, videos to watch. I believe this week was privilege and next week is stereotypes. And like Lynn was sharing yesterday, it even says about how long it would take for you to read that piece or how long the video is. So it helps you figure out where you might be able to find time and space for engaging in that and learning a little bit more about these important topics for our own reflection. And actually many of these could be great topics for collaborative conversations as well.
That's
So
it, folks.
Yeah. So if a question comes to you after this, please feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to answer to the very best of our ability, but we hope you have a wonderful day. And Amber and Colleen had said they would stand for just a couple of minutes. We had a couple questions for them about Number Corner. But we hope everybody has just the best day ever. Happy, what day is it? Wednesday. Thumb recorder, processing videos today. So yay. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.